Good planning is crucial regardless of the type of trip taken, although some travel may require more extensive preparations than others. What will the weather be like? Is the country stable or dangerous? It helps to be organized.
Whenever we travel to a new country in particular, we have a spreadsheet of information that the staff need to go through, which looks at different websites that give background information on the country we are visiting. That also looks at the security issues that we may be facing in the country. It looks at some of the information that comes from the NGO community. That information is vital to sort of generate a picture of the safety situation in a country we are visiting.
One of the things that I look for when I'm going on a trip is making contact with individuals who are in the location where I'm going to be visiting. And not only I look for foreigners, expats, but also locals who understand the culture, who understand the situation on the ground.
It's very important to know what the weather's going to be like so you can prepare your clothing that you're taking. I once was on a trip and they told me the weather would be kind of like where I was coming from, and when I got there I didn't realize we were going up into the mountains, and my little light jacket was totally inadequate, and I had 4 rather miserable days as I tried to stay warm.
You need to find out, is it a malarial territory? You need to find out, is this a place where there's meningococcal disease? What's the likelihood that I could get easy access to medical care, transportation, communications? You really need to have a little bit of an understanding of where you're going.
Ensure that all paperwork is in order. Check with the appropriate government agencies and your travel agent for travel requirements in each country. Do you have your personal identification, up-to-date passport, visas, and vaccinations?
When I'm traveling, my passport is in only one of 2 places. It's either on me or it's in a certain spot in my luggage. And if it isn't, I become extremely alarmed, because that is my ticket in and out of my country and the country that I'm visiting. So it is very advisable to make a photocopy of the first 2 pages of your passport, maybe even the visa that you hold for that country. Have a copy in your carry-on somewhere tucked in a corner. Also leave a copy at home with your emergency contact that you've arranged with.
Some of the vaccines that are very important: yellow fever for Africa and South America, very, very important. Tetanus, very important that you be up to date for tetanus. You don't want them injecting you with a dirty syringe or a needle that may have been re-sterilized, quotes, re-sterilized. So you should get your tetanus up to date. Polio, you should be sure about your polio, although most people in the Western world have no problems with polio. Typhoid is a very good vaccine to take before you travel, and the oral typhoid vaccine gives you a longer protection, and it gives you a more physiological protection because you take it by mouth, it enters the system through the gut. All the immune system of the gut is sensitized against typhoid, which is the way typhoid gets access to your body. So the defenses are up from the very, very sentry boxes of our body. So that's a good thing to do. Another vaccine that I strongly recommend is hepatitis A and hepatitis B vaccines. Hepatitis A is endemic in many countries. So you need to go through some of the vaccines. Check with a travel clinic or check with your doctor that your immunizations are up to date and that the country to which you're going, you meet all their requirements.
So it's very important, again, to know exactly what do you need to travel, what vaccinations do you need, is there any other documentation that is required when you go and visit a country.
First of all, know what the luggage restrictions are on the airline you're flying. They've changed in the last few years, so you need to know that. Secondly, you want a bag that isn't going to scream, "Steal me," in the airport or any place else. You want a piece of luggage that looks like it's been used, that it kind of blends in with everything else.
When traveling, it is wise to know what kind of insurance you have. Depending on where you may be going, you might consider short-term travel insurance and perhaps medical evacuation in case of an emergency. Emergencies can cost an enormous amount of money. Travel insurance does not.
I would say to anybody who is traveling, young or old, you should take something that's going to be sure that you can be evacuated to a center of excellence. And young people need to do this because young people fall off the back of a motorcycle. Young people fall down a mountainside or out of a tree or down. They're doing things that they are prone to accidents that could lead to evacuation just as much as the gingerly, softly stepping old guy like me, but who might come down with a heart attack.
An important part of having a good trip depends on keeping your money safe. Preventing theft and using your money wisely can mean the difference between an enjoyable experience or a miserable catastrophe.
Using a credit card while traveling is something that we need to approach with care. Taking money out of an ATM can be a blessing. You're stuck in a country, you have no cash, you can go to the ATM and get the money. However, the charges for that can be quite astounding, especially since most of us are on quite long trips. The other thing with a credit card can be that if we hand the credit card to somebody just to make a payment, we need to be careful that we don't lose sight of the card, because there's a lot of copying taking place. Having said that, I think credit cards are a real essential for travel. You may not use it all the time, you may not use it at all, but when there is an emergency, it is the one vital piece of plastic that can make the difference between being really stuck or having a way out. And I personally believe that it's important to have at least 1 or 2 different credit cards to take with us on a trip. Before we travel, I normally ask the staff to verify with the credit card company that they are okay to use the credit card in the country they are traveling to. It does 2 things. It helps us to know that they've done the checkup, and secondly, it makes the company aware that we may be abroad in peculiar countries where we normally would not be using a credit card. Credit cards are handy, but they also have their disadvantages.
Nowadays, we tend to feel we need to carry more electronics. We want to communicate, we want to be connected. So we take our cell phone. Now, in many countries, American cell phones don't work. You need to have a cell phone that works internationally. If it doesn't, leave it home, it's useless to you. But if you do carry it, think of all the contact information. Think of all the information that you have on that cell phone. What if you lose it? What if it's stolen? What would they know about you? Who would they call? We've had situations where people fake that they've kidnapped you or something. Call your loved one demanding some money. This causes all kinds of problems for your family back home and for you. So be careful what you have on that cell phone. We also feel we want to send emails. Very similarly, if our laptop gets stolen or is lost, what's on there that we wouldn't want bad guys to get their hands on, or government officials? So be very, very sensitive. Try to purge as much of that as you possibly can before you take it overseas, because information in the wrong hands can be devastating.